Welcome to Zero G's podcast. I'm here with my good friend Ron. He is the co-founder of theoriq. Ron, could you give us a brief introduction into your background and your current role at theoriq?
Sure thing. It's great to be here. My background, I've been an entrepreneur and working on AI a long time. I've been at places like QuantCast, where I was responsible for engineering and research, applying AI in the ad tech space. Then I started Think Big Analytics and sold it to Teradata, where I was VP and general manager of artificial intelligence, integrating deep learning into the database. Then I went on to be responsible for applied AI and responsible AI in the Google Cloud CTO office. Then I went on to be VP of AI engineering and CIO at the Vector Institute. That's Canada's leading AI research institute with about 500 researchers and about 100 industry sponsors. And, in that time, I really came to recognize, A, that AI was going to be the most transformational technology of our lifetimes, and B, how important it was that we not let big monopolists control that future. Even, my time at Google, meeting a lot of really well-intentioned, good people, and being eager to be more involved in how can AI land in a positive way, I came to conclude that the incentives of monopolies were not well aligned with the long-term prospering and success of humanity as AI continues to play out. And, the other co-founders of theoriq who had worked with me, whether at Teradata or the Vector Institute, really recognized the same thing, that we were all experienced in building and scaling AI products, but we felt that the Web3 ethos of community ownership and decentralization and open source, where it was designed for many people to have a stake and for all of us to have a share, was incredibly important. Now, when we started theoriq back in early 22, there weren't a lot of people working on AI in the Web3 world. There were a lot of people who asked, why would you do that? Obviously, that's changed a lot. What hasn't changed is our commitment to those ideals. And with our deep experience in building and scaling AI products, we felt that agents was the most exciting area. As the field evolved, we had been long involved in both agents and the techniques needed to really leverage powerful generative AI models. And so making them into more and more useful capability was top of mind. So that's a little bit about my background and how we came to start theoriq, and a little bit about what we're up to.
Yeah, it's an incredible background, and happy to know that we're both Google alums and left for Web3 land. Talk to us a little bit about, the core problem you guys are aiming to solve, because you talked about agents, but let's imagine somebody has never heard the term AI agents before. Let's get like a quick explanation on agents and then talk about the problem you guys are hoping to solve there.
Yeah, overall, what we see is that we have these incredible advances in AI where instead of, it used to be that anytime you wanted to use AI to solve any problem, you had to have a team of researchers build a specialized model to do one task at a time. You put a few of these tasks together and you would get a useful system, right? And it was very brittle. And, obviously the advances in generative AI models that led to chat bots and image generators and so on mean that we now have much more flexible models that can do a wide variety of things really well. But we really think that that kind of human interacting with a generic chat bot is just a step towards more autonomy, to having AI agents that act more on their own, right? We passionately believe you're going to have groups of collaborating agents or collectives working together to solve problems, to achieve knowledge work, right? So what we see happening is a shift to a world where more and more knowledge work is being done by AI. And the term agent really means that it's being done in a more autonomous way, that you have software that acts increasingly on its own, that can think using AI models, can sense using real-time data and API access to learn what's going on in the moment. really important to understand that the way AI models get trained, they have a historical snapshot. They have a kind of a memory, a long-term memory of what's happened in the world. But that sensing, that real-time information is incredibly important for agents to be useful. That thinking includes planning, but they can also act, take action through tools, right? So that might mean doing analysis with writing code to understand and formulate a strategy, or it might mean calling an API, making an on-chain transaction to purchase something, right? So it's that combination of being able to sense and think and act and collaborate. That's really what AI agents are. And so what we see happening is people are moving away from a world of having to spoon feed a chatbot to have AI help them, and more define a task, give it a budget, and let a collection of AI agents that are great at that work together and solve that for you. So that's what we're building towards, and we're seeing big progress. I'd say that what we've already released in our first test net are agents that are great for analyzing crypto investments, looking at Twitter data, looking at recent performance, tapping into what different KOLs are talking about, being able to give a balanced view of what's happening and give advice for people to take trades. We're seeing agent developers contribute agents that can automate the action. So a user can say, hey, I want to swap these tokens, or I want to purchase this token, or even restake on a liquid restaking token in the EigenLayer ecosystem, and take that natural language and act on it, right? So that's another kind of action that we're seeing a lot of excitement. We've just released prediction agents that can help participate in prediction markets and do forecasting. So a lot of people are excited about this idea of whether it's an election or a sports event or a forecast around AI, to be able to tap in and look at predictions, gather data, even participate in prediction markets like Polymarket. So, these are some of the kinds of use cases where agents are helping people. And it's really that specialized knowledge that makes them much better and, much more capable for specific tasks than, a generic tool that tries to do everything.
Yeah, and what tasks do you think maybe existing or possibly in the future do you feel like these agents are going to be really well primed for? Is it, hey, let's rebalance my portfolio because I'm looking for like a certain amount of risk exposure to assets? Or do you think like, hey, in the future when we all want to go to DevCon, it will help us book the flights? Where do you think like the most interesting use cases are coming out of these AI agents?
Yeah, I think those are both good use cases. I think a lot of times people put more emphasis on the action, and actually, like, booking flights isn't hard, but knowing the right flights to book is hard, right? Or planning your conference schedule. Like, there's a lot that goes into, like, who do I need to meet and where am I going to go and how do I make sure it's a short distance so I can actually get from the meeting to the next one. And am I going to be able to take ride share, or is it going to be 30-minute wait and I can't make that meeting, right? Like, that's mostly the hard part. Like, sending out a bunch of meeting invites isn't too hard. Coordinating around times is a hard part. And like having your agent negotiate with my agent to book the meetings is an interesting thing to do, right? In the same way, like, we think most of the time when people are trying to trade crypto tokens, right? Like, there's like reacting to the latest information. Is this a good opportunity? Is this a buying opportunity? Is this a time when I should be reducing my position and reducing my exposure, right? Like, many traders are wanting to get really rich information to decide quickly. There is a next level of, hey, I want to start to generate an automated strategy. And we think agents they're great at writing code and letting you test and automate. So over time, I think more people will be able to, even as an individual trader, compete with a hedge fund and have your own program trading agents. But I don't think that's as near term. And, I don't know that as many people are going to want to go that deep. There's a difference between, hey, I want to find a few meme coins I want to bet on, and I want to become a professional trader and have agents trade for me all the time, right? But I think it's going to be good for all of those. Broadly, it's no surprise. I think some of the first use cases for agents that we're seeing is in the Web3 ecosystem. Governance for DAOs is another one, but also like we've got an ed bot, which is just great at educating people on Web3 concepts more generally, that, a third-party developer created and contributed into our marketplace. We've also seen even like there's a game that another developer created that people enjoy. It's more fun and lively. And of course, another thing that we're seeing is creating agents with personality that can interact in an interesting way and engage is really trending, right? I mean, I think that's a big takeaway from the excitement around Truth Terminal, and is that people like to have agents that are intriguing, that can meme, that can engage. And so, we're also seeing a lot of excitement around those kinds of agents leveraging capabilities on our platform and being something that people can launch and control. And indeed, like a big thing that we think is there's a lot of use cases for agents. And so rather than, you or me or anyone say like, here are the ones to do, we want to empower anyone to teach an agent what they know. And sort of our view is like, instead of going into a generic chat bot, if you're going to do something more than once, why don't you teach an agent? And then it can just keep getting better. And then you could actually share that with others and maybe monetize it, right? So that's sort of our thinking on how agents are going to be pervasive in so many different areas.
Yeah, let's talk about how you guys are helping create this kind of agent economy, so to speak. Talk to us a little bit about like your guys' approach. You said you launched a test net. What kind of tools and foundation are you guys helping people with?
Yeah, so our test net is both getting more people engaged and participating, and very much in the spirit of like, we want to get feedback and we want to have people try out a variety of agents and the way the agents work together and give feedback on the agents and the protocol. And we've built a beautiful UI, Infinity Studio, for interacting with agents in the protocol, right? So all of these things we think are really important to get feedback and keep iterating. We also have launched an API, or at least SDK, so people can easily register agents that they've created, and we're getting good feedback from developers, right? And so, we've had a series of quests in our incentivized test net for people to give feedback and try out agents and participate. And that keeps evolving as new agents appear and new partners participate, right? We're excited. We've had a number of different partners in terms of supporting agents, whether it be like Bondex, that's a Web3 social network, where we've collaborated with them around an agent that can make it easy to identify job opportunities and even help you write cover letters for them in a nicely integrated way. Similarly with Filecoin Foundation, agent to understand and participate in their ecosystem. And we see a lot more of healthy pipeline of additional partners, agent developers, also infrastructure partners like Zero G, who can provide really valuable services for agent developers, like efficient decentralized storage that competes with centralized solutions, and soon efficient model serving of open models. Certainly our network, we love to build and love to encourage developers to use open. There's some times where people are still finding centralized offerings to be valuable. So, as a protocol, we don't force people to use one or the other, but we think building together and building open is a much better strategy, rather than painting yourself into a corner and hitching your wagon to a proprietary provider who could rug you or change the terms at any time, right?
Yeah, it's so important to have this be decentralized. Talk to us a little bit about, we'll call this like the life of a transaction. So let's say, I'm an AI agent developer, and talk to us a little bit about like how they would interact with theoriq, like get registered. Talk to us a little bit about like the life cycle of a user.
Yeah. So for a developer, it's getting easier and easier to build agents, right? So there's a lot of next generation frameworks for developing AI agents, whether it be like AutoGen or Llama Index or Crew AI. We have one that we've developed that's really good at helping you manage to a budget and resiliency, called Council. So there's a series of these land graph, right? There's lots of ways to build an agent, right? But what we make easy is then you can register it. It's a very thin SDK to make sure that It is accessible with this permissionless way of authenticating, right? So we use a public key cryptography standard called Biscuit, so it's really easy for agents to call one another. And you just define like what are the input and output parameters, and then it's very easy. You can describe the agent, and now it's available, right? You can describe a rate card. So in the current testnet, it's everything is free with limited usage. But in future, we will be, when the protocol goes live, you'll be able to say, what do I charge for using my agent? Do I give users a certain number of free credits, or do they need to pay every time they invoke it, right? And so, monetization is built in, and, registration then makes it possible so the agent can be used in other collectives. And itself, you can register a collective or a group of agents working together that will collaborate. The protocol is moving to more and more dynamic contributions. So it becomes really easy by creating agent and registering it. It can now take advantage of other agents that are available now and in the future. And, it can be participated in, it can be included in turn through other scenarios, right? So that automatic discovery and participation is a really exciting feature in the protocol, right? With what we see, a lot of people are working on static frameworks that, like, I design a bunch of agents that only work together, and this hard-coded set of agents do one thing. But we think the future is agentic, of there'll be lots of interesting agents, and having them dynamically work together to solve increasingly ambitious problems is a big opportunity. To make that work well, though, we have to really address the problem of reputation, right? Like, what agents are high quality and in what context? And so we're doing a lot of work on AI evaluators that independently assess the quality of agents, as well as user feedback, as well as feedback from usage. And in future, we plan to have a staking mechanism so community members can vote on agents to say, this is a high quality agent and I'm backing it. And by backing agents early, really get rewards for front running and identifying high quality agents that are noteworthy for the community.
Do you see this kind of working like a solver network? We can take the example of, let's say we want to book our trip to DevCon, where we might have a agent specifically focused on, airline, maybe even airline points, like trying to do reimbursements and then booking the hotel. How do you kind of see that working in the platform?
Yeah, very much so. That, agents with different functionality capabilities are available in the marketplace. They're described, they have reputation. We have information about how well they've worked in different cases in the past. And then we have proof of collaboration and proof of contribution, right? So proof of collaboration is how well does a group of agents working together work in a context? And then proof of contribution is the individual agents that are part of that. That means you can have real dynamic discovery. So as new agents come into the marketplace with better capabilities, it's easy to discover and upgrade, but you get high quality recommendations, high quality agents. So very much like the solver network, it breaks down the problem into the specialist agents that contribute what they're good at.
And then, so let's say a user is going to submit some kind of like intent or like some kind of goal. Hey, we want to go to DevCon. We want to have our flights booked for us. We want to have all of these things taken care of us. Then it would feed us like a quote, or it would feed us. Talk to us a little bit about like the user experience.
Yeah. So, that's right, that you can say like, what's my budget, right? So like, what are my options? And then decide like, okay, so it's going to cost me $1.70, for example, to do this. Now, I think this is all an area for experimentation. Like, we suspect that for many use cases, it'll be more desirable to have a subscription that people can say, hey, like, a lot of agents would participate in a subscription bundle. And if I'm paying $20 a month, I can have a lot of these use cases covered for me. I mean, obviously there's going to be variations, right? Like, you're not going to have an entire marketing department doing the work of 10 full-time staff for $20 a month. So there's going to be some back and forth of like, what can be included in that, so the system is designed with flexibility to allow subscriptions, to allow, budgets per task and micropayments, as well as, free trials or certain amounts of free usage. And I think honestly, the whole ecosystem is going to have a discovery process. Like the whole world is discovering like how are we pricing for AI, but long term, hiring uh, teams of agents to do more advanced tasks for an amount makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about some of the like scaling, because now we have all of these different agents on a platform. We have this, kind of solver network, which will be piecing together different agent functionalities. Talk to us a little bit about like how you guys are, building this platform to accommodate all of these different agents.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much having the smart contracts to allow agents to communicate, to pay one another, to discover one another, having standards in terms of defining capabilities, making it so you have a rich way. Like one of the superpowers of today's AI is the ability to communicate in natural language, right? So the agents can communicate in natural language and give instructions to one another, give feedback, right? And like a lot of the IP we've developed is how can you have ways of agents planning to use one another and coordinate effectively, right? So that's a big part of what's in the network as well, right? So, it's really designed so it's easy for anyone to contribute an agent, expose one, and then the agents can dynamically work together. They can leverage capabilities of other agents and vice versa.
Yeah, one question that pops up for me is like, let's say we're using something like ChatGPT. There's kind of like a shared memory or shared state, we could say, where it's going to remember certain things about me. It might remember my last name. It might remember that I work for Zero G. If we're piecing together all of these AI agents on the platform, do you guys maintain, a shared state for users, or some kind of memory, some kind of context window?
Yeah, it's really agents in the network. The way it's designed can be stateful, right? And we have partners where they have stateful agents for things like managing wallets and controlling them. But it's like I think it's typically we're designing it so that is a an individual agent preference, because we know that there's going to be users that don't want to have personal information and would rather have a stateless agent. And I think, we're going to have like an exploration of a lot of trade-offs of personalization and privacy and like, do you trust this agent provider to maintain a profile for you? Some agent providers will actually personalize the agents, and some of them will actually aggregate information from many users and train, better agents over time, right? Some people would like that. They'd like an agent that sort of works better and contribute their data. I think others will be like, I don't want that. I came here because I don't want to have some company storing and processing my data. So do your best job, but don't use my data for that, right? So I think it's really important that we give choice to users around privacy and data use. And so each agent provider can define that, for themselves.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about like sensitive tasks and data privacy and security within these decentralized systems. What do you guys, is this like tools you're presenting to the AI agent creators that they can configure like how to treat data? Or talk to us a little bit about like how you guys are handling like these more sensitive tasks or data privacy.
Yeah, I'd say that, we think again, there's like so many good tools and capabilities that we're certainly not going to try to wrap or standardize all of it, right? So instead, it's like you can use a variety of tools with different trade-offs to implement the protocol, to implement the interfaces, to make agents available. And I think over time, as standards emerge, what becomes important is like, can you provide proof or attestation, right? So in cases where, you can show, right? Like, hey, I can show a lineage of data. I could show that, for example, I was running in a trusted execution environment where you can inspect the open source code and have confidence in what I ran, right? Like there'll be demand for proofs of data and proofs of what code ran or environments where it ran, but not everyone is going to demand that, and not every agent will implement that, right? So I think over time, we'd like to see more standards around, asserting the computational integrity, the data usage, the privacy or confidentiality of what's processed. So those are directions we want to take the protocol, but it's not part of our MVP. Where getting useful agents out there is sort of step one, and we always think that that reputation and transparency go a long way, and people will describe policies. People can pick among different policies.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned the step one. So obviously we've got the test net. We're trying to get useful agents. Talk to us a little bit about the progression of where you see the platform evolving over time.
Yeah, we're excited to where we're busy working on the next testnet release where we'll add no code builders, letting people put together groups of agents and create their own agents based on data that they have, what they know how to do, some of the popular content on Twitter, for example, right? So that's coming. Likewise, more robust end-to-end APIs for integration. The next one release after that, towards the end of this year, will be payment and free credit. So really building the foundation, and we think that those are sort of core capabilities to get an initial production release of the protocol. But there's so much to do around continuing to evolve discovery and feedback and reputation, and so much to do around continuing to evolve, like what are the best ways to have commercial transactions, not only among agents, but constituent parts for data and resources like computation. We're also excited to have staking mechanisms and more ways for the community to participate and get involved in agent development, and really to foster the richest ecosystem for agent development. So those are some of the things we're looking ahead to.
Yeah, and you mentioned community involvement. Talk to us a little bit about like how the community currently, or how you hope it in the future, kind of shapes the platform's directions, and kind of what opportunities are out there for like developers, researchers, users.
Yeah, so certainly for users, we have incentivized dashboard, quest.theoriq.ai, where there's always like agents to give feedback on ways of participating. Got a thriving Discord with lots of discussion and feedback, and a great place for people to get involved. Obviously, we're looking ahead to the no code builder and make it easier and easier for more people to build. There's so many great agents to build, whether you use the no code builder or you're a developer and you want to write an agent. With today's AI tools, it's easier and easier to build agents. So building something small and launching it in our hub to make it available to others is a great option for people, a great way of learning, and create something that's useful for you too, right? So there's lots of ways to engage and participate, and we're always eager for feedback, and likewise for people that have existing projects, ways that agents can help their community and get communities coming together. I think leaning in on AI agents is a really good idea for anyone in any company, and certainly in Web3. In crypto, it's so important.
Yeah, and earlier you talked about obviously the partnership with Zero Gravity. Talk to us a little bit about some of the notable partnerships you guys have formed that have helped contribute to your success and growth as a project.
Yeah, so obviously we talked a little bit about Bondex and Filecoin and having agents. Space and Time is a longtime partner, and we've helped them with developing agents, precursors to what's running in the protocol. A lot of learnings for the Houston agents that help with code generation and querying and analyzing data in their database. And obviously they also are a data provider, providing index blockchain data for use by agents in the protocol. Other partners include, we've been working with Hyperbolic and Nosana and Akash, right, who provide compute. So we think that's an exciting direction to have more and more decentralized physical infrastructure, compute providers who can provide. And there's others we're working with. Those are just a few examples, in that category. And data providers like Masa or Grass or Coin Network, where they're doing a lot to collect unstructured data, using Web3 incentives to make it really easy to have data that then can be contributed and made available. Also partnering closely with the Optimism Foundation, who are really supporting and providing great infrastructure for enabling the theoriq protocol, as we will be launching our own chain in their ecosystem.
Ah, you'll be on the super chain.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Very exciting. And then talk to us a little bit about, what kind of excites you about the future of AI and blockchain. It seems like there's a lot of really interesting things coming with AI agents. Well, what are some of the things that really excite you?
Well, I think AI agents are going to be just transformative in the next few years. And so doing this in a user-owned, decentralized way that we all have a stake and we all have a seat at the table around the governance and how they work together is a big opportunity. I do really believe that the collective energy of the community and all the great ideas that will come together are going to accelerate benefits and progress, and working together we can address the governance and make sure that we have the right incentives to have high quality, trustworthy agents that behave well be the winning agents in the ecosystem.
Yeah, the trustworthy nature is always a tricky part. Talk to us a little bit again about how you ensure or like how you build up a reputation score for these different agents.
Yeah, so we have this notion of evaluators, so a separate kind of agent that evaluates agents, and it can use automated AI feedback from user interactions, implicit and explicit, conditioned by user reputation, and in future staking. All of these factors come together to be able to assess, individually how well agents work, proof of contribution, and collectively proof of collaboration. Right, so we're continuing to iterate and work on that. Right, that those are sort of key designs of inputs, and then combining it and making it available is important. But also another important difference is, unlike a lot of traditional Web2 projects, we think that needs to be open, right? So we're not the only ones who can build evaluators. So we want to make it so even in that area, like developing alternative forms of reputation and alternative ways of composing agent collectives, that there's choice in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And one thing you mentioned earlier, because I think a lot of people listening to this are going to be very, keen to get involved. So talk to us a little bit about how users, developers, collaborators, you mentioned the Discord. How can they get involved with the platform itself?
Yeah, so the incentivized testnet links out to our Infinity Studio, which is a user experience to interact with agents, to ask questions, to give them tasks, to get feedback and learn. Soon to generate your own agents in a no-code builder. So that's just at infinity.theoriq.ai. So you can interact directly there or come in through the incentivized dashboard.
And then any kind of social media they should be following, anything that they can, stay in touch and be on top of all the updates you guys are releasing.
Yeah, definitely. So do give us a follow at theoriq AI and give me a follow at Ron Bodkin, and do join our Discord. We're almost 100,000 strong on Discord and well over 100,000 on X and growing quickly. So would love to engage in social media and have you be a part of the community. And, we're always eager to have people step up and play a bigger role, right? It's early days and there's so much excitement around agents and the community that it's a great place to spend some time and interact and give feedback. We're excited, to keep building the community.
Well, absolutely. Well, everyone, go get involved with Ron. Go get involved with the company. Go try out building some agents. And if you are an AI agent developer, go on there and try out the platform. And Ron, I thank you so much for coming on to Zero Gravity's podcast. Let's continue building the future of Web3.